When I posted my video about prototyping an underwater cave diving game, you all had a lot to say. And once you get past the mountains of, oh my god, you made Fruit Ninja comments, and I do mean mountains, there were actually a lot of really interesting and novel ideas on what I could add to the game. But are any of these ideas actually any good? I guess there's only one way to find out. Okay, this first idea was a popular one. Many of you pointed out that in real life underwater cave diving, one of the biggest hazards is that you can kick up a lot of silt into the water. So even just like a tiny little bit of disturbance can disperse all of these particles that just absolutely drop visibility to zero. It's super dangerous. This is terrifying, but also a perfect fit for this game, where a lot of the themes are about making sure you don't get disoriented and run out of oxygen. The first thing I had to figure out is how the silt was actually going to look and how it was going to block your visibility. Because this is a 2D game, at the moment, information is mostly blocked by light and shadows. So I tried adding shadow casters to a bunch of really hack particles, and this just looks absolutely terrible. Like, they look really solid and heavy instead of being little particles in the water. It's just a really bad fit. And when you swim through it, it looks even worse. So next, I tried having much bigger, softer particles, and when you swim into it and collide with the particle, it just fades down any lights that you have. And this was instantly a much nicer effect. I also added a little overlay over the screen so it would seem more particly and muddy rather than just dark when you're in these areas. Because if you look at real life footage of silt getting kicked up, it's kind of more like getting stuck in a blizzard than being stuck in the dark. Next up was figuring out how to actually have the silt get kicked up in the first place. My idea was just to have really specific areas that had pockets, and if anything collided with that pocket whatsoever, then it would kick up all of the silt and start to kind of silt out that immediate area. And for the silt actually getting disturbed, I was inspired by the new smoke grenades in Counter-Strike 2. They expand to fill up a space, rather than just kind of creating a circle or a sphere where you can't see anything. This took a little bit to get working, but I really like the way it looks and the kind of dynamic nature of it. And putting those two things together, it's actually working really well. The silt particles tend to pick up a lot of light. So when you drop a glow stick into them or when you shine your torch on it, it kind of blows out the exposure of the screen and really gives you that sense that it's, you know, these particles that are suspended in the water. I really like it. Sometimes gold will actually spawn inside the silt pocket, which at first was kind of a bug, but now I've left it in. It's really nice because you have to decide, do you really want that gold at the cost of kicking up all of that silt, or do you just leave it for now so it doesn't cause problems further down the line? It's a really nice addition to the game all up, and it just makes the caves feel more alive and more interesting, and really plays well with the kind of themes of being disoriented and getting lost. It works really good. Great job. On the topic of getting disoriented, this person suggested that maybe instead of having the camera just pan to follow the player, you should actually rotate, and then that way you would get really lost and disoriented because you wouldn't know which way is up. This is a really easy one to try out, which I like, because it's just a couple of lines of code for the camera, and oh god. Oh my god. Okay, look, it definitely makes it easier to get lost, that's for sure, because you lose track of which way is up really fast. But for my old man brain, after about 3 minutes of playing this, I almost fell out of my chair. Like, I had to delay an errand because I did not feel confident getting in my car and driving because of the sense of nausea that I had. That being said, it is very effective and does work really well at getting you lost. I'm not going to make it the main way that the game works because it's just too much for me, and I think probably for a lot of other people having the camera rotate like that, but all the code is still in there. So maybe I'll add it as either a mode or a cheat code or something for people who enjoy punishment like that. Seeing as I was still feeling sick from that last idea, it seemed like a really good time to add a low motion option to the game. So right now there are enemies, and when they attack you, it kind of sends the camera into a tumble, so then you have no idea which way is up. This person pointed out that for a lot of people, that's a deal breaker. Like they get really strong nausea from it, which I can relate to. So their suggestion was, instead of tumbling the camera, you could just fade it down, rotate the camera, and then fade it back up. I love this idea. It doesn't actually change the functionality of the enemies at all. It doesn't get any easier. It's just visually different with the same outcome. And the best part is, it's a really easy change. It's just a few lines of code. So I'm just gonna grab the pause menu and add it. Oh wait, now I remember. This pause menu is total garbage and held together with duct tape. Okay, I redid the pause menu and now I'm just gonna make sure I save this setting and, oh yeah, that's right, I don't have a save manager. Okay, why does the volume level change when I... So like I said, very easy feature to add and it just works really well. And sometimes I play with this option on now. If I'm testing out enemy stuff and it involves me like getting attacked over and over and over, it just kind of makes it easier to play. 5 stars. Another really popular idea was to have very narrow and tight tunnels that you really had to squeeze through, really play into that claustrophobia angle. I actually spent a really long time on this one and spoiler alert, it does not go well. So first up, we really need to consider how these tight tunnels are going to interact with the other systems in the game. In Feed the Deep, the core loop is finding resources and then towing them back to the surface to buy upgrades, so that you can get more resources, go deeper, and figure out what's at the bottom of the cave. And the resources themselves are physical objects in the game world, like gold and treasure chests and stuff. So with really small spaces, the problem is we can't get those objects through as well. So if there's anything on the other side of that really small squeeze, it probably needs to also be connected back to the main cave via larger tunnels. Otherwise, everything on that side is trapped. So like imagine you go through a really tight squeeze and then there's this awesome room filled with gold. How do you get it back out? Well, unless there's some other way to connect to it, you can't. Now there's other things we could do, like maybe you can get this stuff and put it in a backpack, you know, like an inventory, so you don't have to physically drag it through. Not a huge fan of that because I really like the physical nature of things in the game at the moment. Maybe you could teleport stuff back, maybe you could drill out parts of the level. The problem is this is all adding new mechanics before I even know that this first mechanic is worth doing. And adding all of those mechanics are going to have further knock-on effects to other parts of the game as well. Okay, enough stalling, like let's just try out some things and see where we end up. So for my first step, I just tried making the whole grid way smaller, just to get a bit of a vibe of what it would be like. Obviously nothing else is tweaked and this looks really weird, but let's just keep experimenting. Maybe the player collision needs to be a capsule instead of just a dot. So then you can't turn around if you're inside a tight... Okay, why on earth would that change? Okay, we got that one fixed. And now swimming around, you do indeed get stuck, but getting stuck isn't fun here. Like obviously the whole idea is that getting stuck will be stressful, and that's kind of how that would feel in real life, but in the game it just kind of feels janky and annoying. Okay, so new plan. Instead of making everything much smaller and tighter, we're gonna just have really specific sections that are a really tight squeeze. Having done some non-underwater caving before, when you get into really tight spaces, it becomes like, you know, you kind of have to breathe out and pop your shoulder around. It becomes very much about body positions. And the thing that I think is interesting about this is it requires patience. Like you can't just speed run your way through. And so for this game, where like your oxygen meter is always ticking down, that seems like it would create a really nice tension. So my idea was, there's a sequence of buttons you have to press, but instead of the buttons just being like pop, 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 and you just bang through them as fast as you can, they fade in from like being really blurry. And so you're kind of staring at it and trying to figure out which way you need to press. So you have to be patient and watch, but then you want to react as quickly as you can once your confidence is high enough that you have the right direction. I couldn't figure out an easy way to blur Unity UI elements, so instead I just got like the arrow and made progressively more blurry versions of it, and then I just hooked it up to a slider and it crossfades between each of the images, and boom, we have like a really nice, cheap Unity UI blurring effect. I made the crack in the wall that you squeeze into, and now everything just gets put together and bam, it works. Obviously the art side isn't complete yet, but still this This just feels weird to me. Like having the buttons pop up just feels like a really poor fit when the entire rest of the game is about being really physicsy and intuitive. This just feels kind of abstracted, one step away from where the rest of the game is. And at this point, I've already spent like 20 hours trying different things for this mechanic, and I just cannot get it to work. I still think this is a great idea and thematically really appropriate. And honestly, I thought I was gonna knock through this in a few hours and it would just be boom, done, what a great idea. But I just keep running into these roadblocks where it just doesn't feel quite right in the game. I think I'm gonna wait until I have new art and a whole bunch of other stuff in the game. And maybe when I rewrite the procedural generation, this will be in my mind and I can really make it work together then. Failure. So a few of you may have noticed that the oxygen meter in the game is kind of similar to some obscure indie game that no one has ever heard of. I mean, I have no idea what you're talking about. They look nothing alike to me, but fair enough. I spent a while making all kinds of concepts and ideas of how it could look different, and I also spent a while seeing what it would look like if it was integrated onto the diver. I actually thought this looked really cool when I was concepting it, and so I added it to the game. But once it was in, it's just too small on the screen. It also kind of dominates the diver. Like it doesn't feel like you're piloting a diver anymore. You're just piloting an air meter that's swimming through. So I went back to the comments and found this one that said maybe you shouldn't know exactly how much air you have left and it should go down in 25% increments. I was immediately reminded of my head torch that I use when I'm hiking. It just has 4 lights on top to show you the battery level, so you have an idea of whether it's full or halfway or nearly empty, but you don't know exactly how much battery it has left. Not knowing exactly how much air you have left is another really nice source of tension in the game. And when you upgrade the oxygen, it just adds another bar, so it's really visually easy to understand. And maybe later on, I'll add upgrades so you can see exactly how much oxygen you have left. Yeah, hopefully I haven't accidentally copied some other obscure indie game. While we're on the theme of oxygen, this person suggested having extra oxygen tanks that you can buy that you can stash further down the cave. I love this idea, but right now I don't have a way of using a physical item like this. In the game, there are all these navigation tools like glow sticks and guidelines, but they just sit in your inventory on the side. They don't have a sense of being anywhere. But this got me thinking, maybe my entire interaction paradigm sucks anyway? Like this UI is really ugly. We could just get rid of it and redesign the entire item systems from scratch. Let's just double down on the idea of towing things around and make literally everything in the game a physical item. I love this in games like Spelunky 2 because so many things are so physical, they end up interacting with each other in all kinds of surprising ways, and you get this very emergent, dynamic gameplay. So what we need to do is, instead of just towing around a bunch of stuff, we need to have it so that one of the things that you're towing is actually actively selected, and then we can have a use button for that specific item. So to test this out, I focused on getting one of the more complex items in the game to work this way. So the guideline is something that you can drop behind you so that you have a path to follow back to key areas or back to the surface. So instead of it just spawning from where you are and being activated for the inventory, now it's going to be a physical item and oh wait, why is it duplicating itself over and over? Okay, that's fixed. Now it's okay. The line appears to be retracing itself in time somehow. Okay, now it's working. You can drag it around and activate it. And because it's a physical item, you can drop it down holes even and follow it down. And it starts to bump into other items and just instantly becomes a bit more interactive, a bit more dynamic. And the new UI, or rather the lack of UI, is way slicker now. I'm really bad at drawing UI, so any excuse to just delete it and not have to deal with it is a win to me. Okay, so now that we've done all that, we can loop around back to the original idea, which was, oh, that's right, oxygen tanks that you can stash down in the cave. And this was like super easy to get working. At this stage, I don't have a place to buy them or anything, so I'm just spawning a bunch of them into the start area. but it's already cool. And again, because of that physical nature of it, there's actually a few different ways you can use it. Like when I was playing, I was stashing them down at the bottom of the cave, kind of like the comment had suggested. But then someone else pointed out you can just tow one around with you at all times as a kind of emergency tank, which I think is a really cool idea. I can already tell that there's going to be some cool, weird achievement that we can build around these as well. Like, can you finish the game without ever upgrading your oxygen tank and just exploiting the heck out of these stashable ones? Okay, this one technically isn't a YouTube comment, but it came from people who signed up to the playtest last video and got in and posted feedback on the Steam forums. It's pretty simple, the idea of a sprint button. So you can swim faster, but it uses up air faster as well. And I added this, and the problem was immediately just that you sprint everywhere. Like you basically just make shorter trips and then sprint there and sprint back, and kind of the radius that you can reach shrinks down, but you can do it much faster. And the kind of overall effect is that the game's pace has changed, but nothing else really has. So an easy change here is we make it so that the sprints only last a few seconds and then it recharges at the surface. And in this way you use it more strategically. Like it's really good, for example, if you're hauling a big load of loot back up to the surface, or even for ramming objects out of the way, like rocks that can block up passages. And once you have a few of them, it is really good for just kind of shortcutting that last part of the journey so it doesn't get too repetitive. So yeah, great job playtesters. Okay, multiplayer. Let's just take the diver and duplicate, 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 and multiplayer done. Damn it, this was just supposed to be like a joke segment, but just having like the different divers cruise around, it's just cool. Like it seems like it would be good fun. A whole bunch of my previous games were multiplayer and I just swore I would never do it again. It's so painful to develop, especially when you're on your own. But this does actually seem like it could be cool, so I don't know, maybe if the game sells really well, if it gets a heap of wish lists, then maybe I would eventually add it. Kind of like what Don't Starve did with Don't Starve Together. Look, I don't know. I thought the game was pretty dark already, but also in fairness, I do a lot of my testing and end up recording a lot of the video kind of near the surface where it's much brighter. So maybe the darkness doesn't come across quite so much in the videos, but feedback is feedback. I think we can do better. We can simply make it that as you dive deeper, you kind of fade down the lights, kind of simulating like the water is getting thicker and has more sediment and just is harder to see through. It definitely makes it feel deeper and scarier as you get further from the surface. Now there's much more of a reason to upgrade your lights in the shop, as well as creating more contrast between the top and the bottoms of the cave. Oh man, I've got like 3 more pages of script. Let's just like roll a montage. Okay, so far I've spent about 3 extra weeks on the game, and I simultaneously feel like I've done heaps and kind of nothing at the same time. Like I'd planned to do a side-by-side for the thumbnail, like before, after, but honestly, it just kind of looks exactly the same. But playing the game, it definitely feels like a really good step forward. There's much more variety and dynamism when playing, and all up it feels like there's a really good foundation here for future changes. There is still a heap of work to do. I have big plans for the game, and my goal here is to get the game in a place where I'm happy to release it on Steam. So if you're keen to check out the game, make sure you go to Steam, the link is in the description, and wishlist it, and also you can sign up to join the playtest. I'm going to be adding 500 new playtesters to the game in the next 2 weeks. Steam literally just gives these out as a lottery, but each time I do a major update, I'm going to add more playtesters. So definitely join now to give yourself the best chance of getting in. I have a lot more videos in the pipe, including one for an insane FMV golf game, which I'm not kidding, it's not a joke, it's a real thing. And of course, I'll be doing a How I Designed Jetpack Joyride one later on in the year. And I'm also hoping that people will keep on enjoying the Feed the Deep videos, because I would really like to keep making them as I develop the game. Right now, I'm doing all of this, all of the game dev work, all of the videos, all completely on my own. So thank you very much for your patience between videos and also all of your support. It means a lot. So please consider subscribing, commenting, liking, all of that stuff. It all helps a tremendous amount, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Thanks.